Do you want to get better at not only reading a story, but bringing more life to that story and becoming a storyteller? Well, good, because I'm about to give you a tip that might help you get there.
456 Studios.
All right, today we're going to be talking about that extra little thing that you might not have thought about that'll bring you from becoming just a narrator and a reader to a storyteller. And that little piece is thinking about your characters that are in the story. And primarily in this specific instance, I'm going to give you an example of this with and without the little element that I'm talking about. I recently did a workshop, and it was all based around character development and bringing your characters to life. But in that workshop, kind of like this little light bulb went off in my head. I had a little epiphany, if you will, that not only during your dialogue is there an opportunity to show your character, right? We're probably all used to that, right? Putting on a voice and an attitude and thinking about your character when they actually have a speaking part or they're thinking out loud, right? That internal dialogue. But there's one step further that we can go on the rest of it, right? The not just the dialogue, but we can talk about the character within the exposition. We can talk about bringing character to the narrative itself and thinking about the primary character in this particular, scene or chapter, what have you, and bringing that extra little element to that reading. So let me demonstrate. I'm going to read kind of the short paragraph, and I'm not going to add any of that to it. And then I'm going to go back and then really think about bringing the character to it. And I want to see if you can tell the difference, because there will be a difference. It might be subtle, but there'll be a difference. So let's read this little chapter or this little paragraph first, and we'll go from there. Okay. Detective Harper stood at the edge of the crime scene, her gaze fixed on the lifeless body sprawled on the cold pavement. The city lights flickered above, casting eerie shadows that seemed to dance around her. She felt a familiar knot in her stomach, the kind that always formed when a case was about to take a turn for the worse. Her mind raced with questions, theories, and doubts. Who could have done this, and why? There were too many pieces that didn't fit, too many lies tangled in the truth. Okay, that should be enough to give us a little bit of flavor. So, the very first part of this is probably how AI would read this, right? Maybe a little bit of inflection, but not much. And there's no feeling to it. So let's think about this. So we have Detective Harper in here. And obviously, we have this little line. She felt that familiar knot in her stomach that always formed when a case was about to take a turn for the. So she's experienced, right? This isn't her first rodeo. She's been doing this for a while. So let's keep that in mind. Detective Harper, with a little bit of experience here. She's been there, done this before, and these kind of familiar things are hitting her body as she's coming across this scene, right? And her mind is racing with all this stuff. So let's bring that flavor. Let's think about Detective Harper in this and see if we can change it just a little bit. So here's the second read. Detective Harper stood on the edge of the crime scene, her gaze fixed on the lifeless body sprawled on the cold pavement. The city lights flickered above, casting eerie shadows that seemed to dance around her. She felt a familiar knot in her stomach, the kind that always formed when a case was about to take a turn for the worse. Her mind raced with questions, theories, and doubts. Who could have done this, and why? There were too many pieces that didn't fit, too many lies tangled in the truth. So, what I tried to focus on there, and specifically maybe where you heard this little inflection, is the knot in her stomach, right? Trying to bring kind of attention to that and slowing it down a little bit and bringing more of that feeling and thinking about Detective Harper in there. And then with the questions and theories and doubts, right? And then when we get to the sentence that there were too many pieces that didn't fit, thinking about, well, how would an experienced detective think about this? There were too many pieces that didn't fit. Too many lies tangled in the truth, right? This is starting to become familiar. She's figuring this out and throwing that bit of character into this narrative, right? And it's almost kind of an internal thought and dialogue as it's going on, right? But it's not, right? It's internal thought, but it's probably more narrative than that, right? With all the other things kind of mixed in, but we're giving it that flavor, and that's the difference. And if you can really focus on being in the moment with every paragraph that you're reading and thinking about the characters that are kind of in this scene and that are primary, and specifically this one's a little easier because we're talking about Detective Harper, right? If we had another character that was in here, maybe the bad guy shows up, we can add that flavor. If it goes, maybe it's third person omniscient, and we kind of get an inside glimpse of his head or something, or whatever the case may be. The point is thinking about the character not only in dialogue, but in everything else to flavor it with what that character's motivation and the other things that we do when we build characters, right? And bringing that to our narration. And that gives it just that little bit of extra oomph and emphasis that I think sets a good narrator apart from a great narrator. And that's what we're all aspiring to be, right? All right, and that pretty much marks the end of this video. Maybe next time you're doing a narration project, thinking about the character in relation to what you're reading will help you. And if it does, feel free to leave a like and subscribe on the channel. Leave some questions down below if you have them, and I'll make sure to answer them if I can. And check out the rest of the channel. I have lots more videos planned coming, and I have some great tutorial videos up there, and hopefully those will also help you. And if you have any narration projects like I do, let's not hesitate any longer, and let's get to it.